You know when like crypto YouTubers do that face, or let's try some other ones. We always know like crypto FUD is about to come in full force. Look, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer at all. I'm just trying to bring some amount of transparency and normalcy to crypto right here on this channel. And we're going to talk about two big news items that have happened today. One is Doge has blown up. Why has it blown up? And is it more FUD than reality? And by the way, I wonder if Elon has something to do with it. Short answer, yes. So we're going to talk about that and what the truth is behind that, as well as all this rumors about Bitcoin kind of drying up and it's almost gone and there's no more inflation to happen anymore. But there's a whole lot more to it than that. So we're going to cover those two things just so you can have some rationality back into your crypto sphere right here on this channel. Don't go away. All this and a bunch more coming right up. Alrighty, my friends, thank you guys for joining today as we dive into some crypto news. Wes Spencer here. Really glad you've joined me. Would love for you to hit like, subscribe, share this with friends, all that good stuff. Okay, so let's just jump right into some of the news here. I couldn't resist from this. So I'm trying to think of where to start, right? And one of the things that we can start with is we know that Doge really just blew up in price and a whole bunch of stuff happened. Let's unpack that for a minute. So here's a tweet from the famous Matt Wallace. Matt, like, I don't know what your deal is, dude. I'm sure you're a great guy and all that, but we got to be better than this, right? So all in caps, Elon Musk just announced Tesla will be accepting Dogecoin. Whoa, that's incredible. What's happening? Cue the once again, right? Like, so what's the truth behind this? Is he really accepting? Can I go and buy my new Model 3 off of Doge? I mean, that would be cool for sure. And we definitely know that Elon has a long history of pumping Doge, if for no other reason than trolling the world. And I think there's a fair amount to that, right? He said over and over and over he likes the Doge project because it doesn't take itself very seriously. So we see this here, but there is so much FUD that's been wrapped into this. And I'm not saying that Matt's tweet is what blew this up. It's definitely not. He's just reacting to it. But certainly there's much more to the story. But we can see this. I mean, look at this right here. Look at this huge spike. This is incredible to me that we went from like way down 15 cents to a high today at all the way up to, we doubled in price up to 21 cents. And it's coming back down. This whole idea of, sell the news could not be more true than all of this. But there's more to the story than just Elon saying something and it blowing up. So let's go take a look at some of this so we can see the truth. So first of all, probably the best thing we can do is go look at the source. Here's what Elon actually said. Take a look at this. Let me go back way up to the top here. Tesla will make some merch buyable with Doge and see how it goes. You see what he said? You see that? Let's go back and look. What did he say? Merch. Like, he said it very clearly. Merch. Literally, all Elon said is, be cool for us to allow us to sell like Tesla shirts and Tesla hats and Tesla underwear and Tesla shoes and Tesla phone or whatever it's going to be. Merch, right? Not the car. You're not going to go buy your new Model Y or your Model S Plaid off Doge, at least not from this tweet, right? So let's bring some rationality here and understand this is what's happening here. And I think the news has done a little bit of a better job of this. I mean, you just look at all the crypto news today. This is all a buzz that Elon is planning to accept Doge, but at least a lot of the good outlets that are a little bit more mainstream, for better or for worse, are at least clear on this, right? Doge spikes more than 20% after Elon Musk says Tesla will accept it as payment for merch. See that right there? For merch. So there's a huge difference here between them accepting this as the major or a major source of currency for a vehicle versus just selling some t-shirts. So, this really gets me on that soapbox that we see so often with crypto. Make sure that when you see the news, you investigate the news. Never follow just headlines, and certainly don't follow YouTubers like me or Matt or anyone else. If you listen to YouTubers, you will go broke. The truth is, none of them know what they're talking about. Sure, they may have some great and smart and sexy technical analysis that's out there, but really, They don't know any better than you know or I know. And so just keep that in mind. We're not your financial advisors. That's so important to say that. So there's the first like raining on the parade I'm doing today. And I try to be like a happy, chipper guy, right? And try to like find the glass half full in all things. And I hated to have to like rain down on this whole Doge parade. I'm not saying that Doge is like the worst project ever, right? You guys have heard me on this channel oftentimes talk about these meme coins that are out there. Sometimes there's not a huge use case for them other than that, just like Elon said a long time ago, they don't take themselves seriously, but they're fun. And there's some amount of economy for that. And Elon himself, the king of all trolls, likes to use Doge as just an example of that. So it's just for merch. There we go. So let's dive into the other news article that I saw today. And I've seen this blowing up quite a bit. And this is from CNBC as well. Whatever this make it is, I don't really know what the difference is there with this. But look at the article. So you see it right here. 90% of Bitcoin's supply has already been mined. Whoa. Now, if that's not like, a sad face that's of all sad faces, right? Like, it's already been mined up. Does that mean that, like, Bitcoin is done? That there's just 10% of the market left and there's, like, not enough to go around for everybody? And what does that mean, right? That seems kind of, like, really sad. And it also seems like, are you kidding? Like, what happened to get us to 90%? That sounds incredible. Well, once again, there's a whole lot more to the news than the news is letting on. And this is why you need to learn to read and investigate. And I want to talk a little bit more technical today about how Bitcoin works. So we do know Bitcoin is deflationary in its overall economy, right? So when Satoshi first wrote his white paper, he was frustrated with inflation. He was frustrated how banks were handling the bailouts of 2008, 2009. And even in the Genesis block of Bitcoin, he had a link embedded about the bank bailouts. Here's the thing though. He was smart to say, look, while there's only going to ever be 21 million Bitcoin ever created, we're not going to release them all at once. And I think that's smart. I mean, had they released them all at once, a whole bunch of people would have bought them all up and they would be sitting on them and it would still be worth fractions of a penny today. And that would have killed Bitcoin. We wouldn't even have all these YouTubers and people like me talking about all this stuff had he made that decision. But he did come up with a mechanism by which Bitcoin is minted or created according to that proof of work algorithm. And I want to dive into a little bit more about that so you can kind of see how this works and see this whole 90% that you see here. While it is true, it's not as alarming as one might think. Okay, so let's talk about this. I'm going to skip over to this website right here. This is from CMMC Markets, and there's a lot of places you can find this. But if you haven't seen much about Bitcoin halving, one of the mechanisms of Bitcoin is that every so often, once it hits a certain number of blocks that have been mined, it halves in terms of the block rewards, the amount of Bitcoin that you get out of it. So look in these early days. There's some shocking things that you're going to notice in the early days of Bitcoin. So when it first launched, January 3rd, 2009, it started at the Genesis block 0 that I mentioned, that Satoshi first published the link to the bank bailouts. Back then, in those wonderful days of Bitcoin being worth basically nothing, we were generating 50 Bitcoin per block, and they were happening like crazy. Now, there's one thing you probably didn't know, most of us don't, is in that period, there were 10 million Bitcoin that were mined. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? You're probably thinking, whoa, wait, 10 million? And Wes, you just said there's only 21 million that will ever be created. Yes, I did. So take a look at this. The truth is 50% of all mined Bitcoin happened in the very first phase of Bitcoin. This rewards the early people. You guys saw on the news that guy, I think in the UK, that's still to this day looking for his lost hard drive with hundreds of Bitcoin on it from those early days. I understand why. He's talking about hundreds of millions of dollars that he can potentially find should he get back to that lost hard drive. And I hope he does, right? I mean, I get it. I'd be in his shoes too, doing the same thing. So would we all. The reality is most people didn't realize that in those early days of Bitcoin, while it was worth basically nothing, 50% of all Bitcoin was mined. That's incredible. Then we could look at the very first halving. This happened when we got to block 210,000, and this was in 2012. And all of a sudden, look what happened. Bitcoin went from 50 in its reward to 25. So it halved. This is called a halvening. These halvenings are built into the blockchain code and happen at every so often in intervals. More on that in just a little bit. But notice at that point, the number of Bitcoin mined was only 5 million. And we mined at that point, look at this, 75%. So even by 2012, before almost anybody in this channel watching today's video even knew, the vast majority, 75%, 3/4 of all Bitcoin had already been mined. Wow. Wow. These are things that people don't think about. Isn't that incredible? Let's go back and take a look at the next halving. So the next halving happened several years after this. So we went from 2009 to 2012, then we went to 2016. And notice this is about 4-year increments, roughly. There's some nuances there, but roughly. This happened when we hit 420,000th block is when this happened, and we went down to 12.5. 2.6 million Bitcoin were mined during this time. And take a look, way back in 2016, we were already almost at 90%. Once again, you see how this works? So like the amount of Bitcoin mined was, again, what's my point here? We were already back in 2016 at 87.5%. So this news article that you see here, let me go bring this up again, where this like shocking, mind-blowing, crypto YouTuber style, the reality is we've been there for a while, guys. That's kind of how the way the currency works. This is not news. This is not a big deal in the scheme of things. It's just that this 90% is like shocking to people. And if there's one thing news and mainstream media like, it's clicks. And what gets clicks? Sensational news articles and headlines. One thing that doesn't get clicks is small YouTubers like me that just make channel videos that are all about leveling things back down and bringing some rationality back into the news cycles. I realize this video isn't going to blow up into millions of views because of that, but I'd rather just be rational and tell you guys a little bit more about the truth of what's happening. Okay, so you can kind of see how all of this works. And then you can see halving 3. This is a bit of an old article, so they said it was expected in May of 2020. It's already occurred, and at that point, they expected it to be at 93%. And we're past that, right? We're past the 90% threshold. But notice this, as we get into additional halvings, for example, we think 2024, and this should be fairly accurate, we're going to be at 96%. And then look at this. This is when it slows down, 98%, 99%. And then you can even see in this article, let me kind of scroll so you can see it a little bit better. By the end of 2032, 99% will have been mined. And we estimate from 2032 to 2140, when 0 people will be alive watching this video, unless we create some kind of anti-aging medicine that turns us all into semi-zombies, 100%, it'll be 2140. That's a long time from now. That's like over 100 years from now. So it slows down. And so while this is a deflationary, like overall, because there's only a fixed amount of Bitcoin that will be created, the thing to remember is we're still in an inflationary period where we're still minting and creating more. It's just that the amount is getting lower and lower and lower and lower as we reach the cap. So that 90%, who cares? Like, it's literally a meaningless news article. We've already been there for a long time. We've already been close to it. So really, it's not a big deal. Now, a couple of things I did want to share because I've got your attention around halvening. I think halvening is some interesting stuff. So here's an article that was actually linked in the past one, and it kind of talks about what happens in the price history with Bitcoin every time it halves. And this right here is a little bit of a nuance. Notice that the price is not linear. It's actually, we go from $0, this huge gap, to $16. And then 16 to 512 in the same, 1 inch or so gap that you see here, and then up to 16K, and then of course we're up even higher. So notice that these numbers right here on the y-axis they're not linear. And so when you see this like this, these things frustrate me. If you just ignore this, which most people wouldn't even look at this, they just see, oh yeah, the price is going up in some amount, and then wham, look at the prices going up. Guys, I could change these numbers myself and make it look even lower, make it look even higher. But the idea behind this article is showing definitively the price goes up every time we have a halving event. And that's true, but it's not quite as staggering as this makes it look. But the idea is basically this. If the amount of Bitcoin that was being produced for every block halves, once we get to those points where that inflation is being reduced, it should make the value of Bitcoin go higher because there's less being created. And because of that lower supply, hopefully as demand continues to increase, it drives the price up. This is basic economics. We all know this. So if you're interested in tracking all of this and you want to kind of see what happens, let me show you this website right here. This is a really cool website. It's called thehalving.com. I'll put a link in the description so you can see it. So it shows you where we're at right now. You can see we're still kind of refueling the ship. We need 125,000 more blocks to be mined. This is an estimated 873 days, and it's fairly accurate because of the speed at which blocks are mined every about 10 minutes or so. So I kind of love this, this theme here, sort of this Southwest, rocketry theme. You can scroll down and see a little bit more data. Let me zoom in. Hopefully we can see this a little bit better. There we go. So you can kind of see the total number of Bitcoins that are being created. And then this is pretty interesting as well. So the inflation per day is about 46,000. No, that's every 10-minute blocks, really. So really it's 42 million per day is the amount of inflation we're introducing at Bitcoin's current value. If you take all the blocks on average that are mined every day, we're introducing brand new $42 million of Bitcoin into the system every single day. That's inflation. And that's okay because it's getting lower and lower and lower, as we said. So you can take a peek at this. You can read a little bit more about kind of how all of this works. I love this website. But the big thing I wanted to just kind of recap and come back is simply this. Look, this news article here of 90% being mined, that's great, but it's not really that big of a news event because we've already been there for a long time. So I hope you learned something in today's video, whether it's a little bit more about just dive into the background of tweets and things like that when you see news emerging, especially when it comes to Elon. Don't take crypto YouTubers' words for it because you'll always regret that. And then lastly, there's more to the story on the whole 90% of Bitcoin. But I think it's a good thing because we're going to continue to see Bitcoin's value go up in time because the scarcity is there, because the demand for it is there, because institutional buying needs are there. Doesn't mean that other cryptos won't also do well, right? It's not Bitcoin versus the world. I'm not a maximalist, but it does let us see the mechanics in the background behind it that goes way beyond the news. All right, my friends, I hope this was helpful. It was a lot of fun kind of sharing this bit of knowledge. Hopefully you took away some nuggets of truth with you that you can go and share with others when they have the all caps tweets of, I can't believe 90%, or Elon said what about Doge? Now we know the truths behind them. All right, my friends, thank you guys so very much. Until next time.